You're here because you want the lowdown, fast, and, well, maybe a little furious today.
Yeah.
You want to cut through the noise and get right to the really quite bizarre heart of the matter.
Mm-hmm.
Well, buckle up then, because today we are diving headfirst into this truly unbelievable saga surrounding President Biden's alleged cognitive state and the supposed backstage efforts to keep it all under wraps.
Yeah, it's quite a story that's emerged. And for this deep dive into what feels like a looking glass world of political optics, we've got a pretty rich set of sources, actually.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, primarily that really compelling back and forth between Megyn Kelly and Jake Tapper.
Yeah.
You know, her direct style, his CNN background, that's central.
Okay.
But we're also looking at material from Valuetainment, CNN reports themselves, bits from The Hill, and that book, The Great Biden Concealment.
Right. That title alone.
Exactly. Plus, insights from Megyn Kelly's own show, The Daily Signal, Prof G Conversations, even BBC Newsnight. So it's a real mix of viewpoints, a potpourri, you could say.
Oh, it's a feast of, did they really think they could get away with that? Our mission today, for you listening, is to really unpack the sheer absurdity, maybe, of this whole alleged situation.
It does beggar belief sometimes.
The whispers, the denials, and that big question. Were we, the public, basically being managed? We're aiming for a straight shot here, unfiltered info from these sources. It's going to be, well, something.
Okay, so let's jump into this idea of a non-functioning Biden that Kelly and Tapper discussed. They talked about this existence of, like, two versions of him.
Two Bidens.
Yeah, one functional, like Tapper recalled from earlier interactions, saying he seemed perfectly workable, serviceable, seemed fine, and then another version.
The one that raised eyebrows.
Raised more than eyebrows, according to Kelly. This apparent difference, they suggest, goes back a ways, maybe intensifying around 2015 after his son Beau passed away, which, does make you think about grief and public pressure.
Eyebrows. Some of the specific things Kelly brought up.
Yeah.
I mean, addressing a deceased congresswoman, Jackie Walorski. She was actually there.
That was a widely reported incident, yeah.
And the falls, or near falls, up the stairs of Air Force One. That became almost a running gag, didn't it?
It certainly got a lot of media attention.
Plus the, losing his train of thought mid-sentence, the slurring that sometimes made him hard to understand, even getting turned around on the White House lawn.
Yeah.
If it weren't serious, it would almost be comical.
And what's interesting, or maybe revealing, is Tapper looking back at these moments now.
Oh, so?
Well, he admits he saw some of these things happening, the stumbles, the verbal fuzziness. But he also sort of concedes that maybe he didn't push the story hard enough at the time.
Really?
Yeah. He specifically mentioned that interview with Laura Trump. Remember, he kind of shut down her concerns about Biden's cognition, framing it as just mocking a stutter.
Ah, right. I remember that.
And now, looking back, especially with what's in his book, he seems to acknowledge that might have been, well, maybe not the full picture.
Not the full picture is one way to put it. It sounds a bit like insisting it's sunny during a hurricane. And the timing Tapper lays out is key too, isn't it?
It seems to be.
This apparent decline, it wasn't gradual, according to him. It supposedly accelerated dramatically after Hunter Biden's plea deal collapsed in summer 2023. It's almost presented as that specific event triggered something major. Funny how those things line up sometimes, eh?
Well, it certainly provides a timeline marker in their narrative, and that leads us neatly into the alleged cover-up attempts.
Like a delusion.
That's what Tapper's book, Original Sin, co-authored with Alex Thompson, seems to detail. They lay out what they describe as this very deliberate effort by Biden's team staff, advisors, the whole Democratic Party machine, really to shield him.
Shield him from scrutiny.
From public scrutiny, yeah. To manage perceptions very carefully. It does make you think about the mechanics of modern political campaigns.
Oh, the stories that came out, especially in the Great Biden Concealment and the Kelly Tapper discussion, it sounds like desperation tactics, staging a fake town hall. Seriously.
That's the allegation. Spring 2024, purely to get footage for campaign ads.
And the punchline. Apparently it was unusable because Biden was, quote, incoherent.
That's the claim. And the reported excuse was the lighting.
The lighting. You can't make this stuff up. It's almost admirable in its sheer audacity, isn't it? Or maybe just incompetent.
It does stretch credibility. But the alleged stagecraft, according to these sources, didn't stop there. There are claims of filming with two cameras to allow for jump cuts, edit out any mistakes, any moments where he might have trailed off or stumbled. A single unbroken shot might have shown too much.
Ah, clever editing. Or deceptive, depending on your view.
And then there's that story, almost legendary now, about slowing down video footage of him walking
To make him look less slow.
to make his gait appear less, let's say, leisurely, and the kicker. Allegedly, Steven Spielberg gave some advice on how to do it.
Spielberg. Now it is sounding like a movie plot. A rather unbelievable one.
It's one of those details that, if true, really makes you question what you're seeing in political ads.
It's like digital remastering of a person.
Yeah.
And the note cards. The reports suggest they got pretty extreme.
How so?
Like needing them even for basic info, even in like small private meetings with donors. Some aides reportedly felt they were prepping him like a school kid.
Increased reliance, then?
And the teleprompter. Apparently not just for big speeches anymore, using it for short remarks to, small groups. Behind closed doors, you almost feel for the speechwriters. Almost.
What's quite stark, though, and maybe more concerning if true, is the reported feeling among some cabinet secretaries.
Oh, what about them?
Tapper claims at least 4 of them, by 2024, felt Biden couldn't really be relied upon for, say, a critical 2 a.m. emergency call.
Wow, that's significant.
And that access to him became much tighter, much more controlled in 2024. There are also accounts of cabinet meetings becoming terrible, uncomfortable, highly scripted, very little real back and forth.
So a picture of someone increasingly managed, maybe isolated.
That's the picture painted by these sources, yes. A president being carefully handled.
And it gets juicier. That January 2024 meeting on Ukraine funding.
Right, with House Democrats.
The official White House line was, incredibly strong, forceful, decisive, standard stuff. But according to Tapper's reporting, some Democrats in that room privately called it a mess. Described Biden stumbling, stopping mid-sentence, trailing off. Just generally not sharp.
A direct contradiction to the official narrative.
Totally. And then there's that senior White House aide who reportedly quit, just walked away.
Why?
Said they were appalled that Biden was running again and by the whole effort to, quote, shield him from his own staff. That sounds like a pretty intense internal situation.
Which naturally brings the media's role into focus. Megyn Kelly really went there with Jake Tapper, didn't she?
She did. She basically asked him point blank why he didn't push Biden harder on these health things in his interviews.
Especially after incidents like the Walorski mention or the Falah.
Exactly. Things the public could see. Why not ask the tough questions directly to him? It raises that classic question about access journalism, doesn't it?
Yeah, definitely. What are you willing to overlook to maintain access?
Kelly wasn't subtle about it. She laid out the timeline, the stumbles, the verbal issues, and Tapper's, let's say, gentle handling of it in their face-to-face interviews.
So what was Tapper's explanation for that?
Well, he offered a couple of main reasons. First, he claims he and others were actively lied to.
By who?
By White House insiders, people in the Democratic Party,
right.
That they were given false assurances about Biden's condition.
The I was misled defense. Okay, what else?
Second, he argued that a lot of the really candid interviews for his book only happened after the election, when people felt freer to speak, presumably.
Convenient timing, which is exactly the criticism he's facing, right?
Precisely. People are asking why now? Why this sudden expose after years of, downplaying or dismissing concerns, especially after he brushed off Lord Trump's similar points about the stutter. It does smell a bit like opportunism, doesn't it? The timing of the book release.
It certainly raised questions about motives. Alex Thompson, his co-author, had a slightly different take, suggesting the media overall just missed parts of the story.
Kelly pushed back hard on that, though.
She did. She argued the signs were obvious, especially if you were looking at conservative or independent media who maybe weren't getting the same level of access as someone like Tapper, but were reporting on these incidents.
So a debate about who's actually paying attention or who could pay attention.
And then, layered on top of all this, is the timing of the cancer diagnosis announcement.
Right, landing right around the book's release.
It fueled suspicion, inevitably. Was it a strategic move to manage the narrative or gain sympathy just as these criticisms were surfacing? We don't know, but the timing was noted.
Noted is one word for it. Very coincidental, you have to wonder.
Indeed. Now, shifting to the Democrats themselves, the initial public reaction was pretty unified, wasn't it?
Oh, yeah. Total stonewall. Any talk about Biden's mental fitness was dismissed as, conspiracy theories, usually attributed to the right wing. Figures like Chuck Schumer were very vocal about how sharp Biden supposedly was.
A strong defense line, party discipline.
Like a fortress built on, perhaps, shaky ground. Because behind the scenes, according to these reports, it was a different story.
How so?
We hear about Democrats privately voicing major concerns, like that House Democrat calling the Ukraine meeting a disaster, but publicly smiles in support. It's quite the tightrope walk.
And that quote in the book from Representative Susan Wild, that really seemed to capture the internal dilemma.
Remind me.
She reportedly said, Biden can't come to my district, and he makes us all out to be liars.
Oof. Yeah. That says a lot, doesn't it? The gap between the public story and their private reality.
And it apparently wasn't just politicians noticing. There's the story about George Clooney.
The actor, what about him?
Apparently, he had a moment of realization at a fundraiser in June 2024, saw Biden's condition firsthand, reportedly, and was taken aback.
And what did he do?
The report is he then privately suggested Biden should think about dropping out, when even Hollywood starts seeing through the performance.
That's telling.
And then you have figures like David Axelrod adding another layer of complexity.
Obama's strategist.
Right. His suggestion after the cancer diagnosis was basically to mute the conversation about Biden's cognitive state. Just stop talking about it.
Really? Mute it.
Yeah, a suggestion Tapper himself said he disagreed with. But it shows that internal tension, right? How does the party handle this incredibly sensitive, politically charged issue? Pragmatism versus something else.
So let's try and wrap our heads around this. We've gone through the allegations of a major effort to hide President Biden's supposed cognitive decline.
The methods allegedly used some sounding almost farcical, like fake town halls and video tricks.
And the media's role in all this, which seems complicated, to say the least, especially around Tapper's book and Kelly's questioning.
It really presents a complex picture, so this deep dive hopefully leaves you, our listener, with some pretty significant questions.
Yeah, questions about trust, really. Trust in political figures, trust in the information we get, trust in the media reporting it. How transparent should things be? How much is just politics?
Exactly. It forces you to think about what we expect versus what we get.
Precisely. So here's a final thought to chew on. Given everything discussed here, based on these sources, what does this all mean long-term for how we, the public, judge if someone's fit for office?
Good question.
And what's the media's actual responsibility here? Is focusing so intensely on one person's health maybe, just maybe, a way to distract from bigger systemic issues in politics or how power works?
Or is it absolutely central to judging fitness for the job?
Right. It's a lot to think about. And perhaps the sheer reported absurdity of the alleged concealment efforts is enough to make you question, well, pretty much everything you hear.